Hi, everyone. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever the world you are living in right now. Welcome to another episode of my podcast channel, Data Science with Sam. This episode brings a brand new topic of my interest, sports analytics. In growing world, today's world, you have seen a lot of implementation of analytics in the sports industry. It's kind of very prevalent in various sporting areas like in soccer, in baseball, in cricket, basketball, in other areas as well. I never actually talked about this analytics stuff, even if I have a profound interest in soccer and other stuff. People who are actually watching this video could see me that I'm actually wearing my Manchester United jersey, the club who I've been following for last 20 years. So to talk about this thing, I actually have an expert from the sports industry who's going to give us a little bit of a rundown of how the analytics and data science plays a crucial role in the soccer area. So my today's guest is Ana De Souza. Anna, welcome to the session. I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you, Sam, for having me. I'm excited to talk about football or soccer for those in America. Right, I think soccer has been part of my life since day one, so I'm happy to express my journey and how I actually got into soccer analytics.
Thank
Kind
you
of, I
so
guess
much.
it's kind of as a mistake, but obviously, there's a plan for all of us. So just excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Anna. And I love the way you say that in football, but it goes by soccer in the United States. Something who basically came to United States like more than 10 years back, also having an interest in football and soccer both. Kind of, I can relate to that because how I kind of literally caught up with that term football in the United States, and later I kind of try to make myself clear that I need to say soccer over here in this country to make people realize that which sports I'm referring to. So anyway, so going into our discussion, but I think as you mentioned that you've been into soccer industry, been working there for a long time. I'm pretty sure my viewers or listeners would love to know about your professional journey or your academic interest. So could you please give us a little bit of a historical tour of your professional journey thus far, and we'll go from there.
For sure, Sam. So first off, I started playing when I was young. Right, I played for a while, up until I broke my foot, and then I had to get some metal screws in. So I kind of sidetracked. That was my last years of high school. So typically during that time, you pretty much figure out whether you're gonna play in college or you're just gonna play like recreationally. And to be honest, the injury really messed my I had like PTSD because I just couldn't, I didn't feel the same again. And back then there wasn't like proper, especially where I grew up in Miami, Florida, there wasn't proper like resources to mitigate that. So I decided to go more the academic route, right? So I went to school for economics. My family from my mom's side, they're economists. So when I chose majors, I was like, I'm just gonna pick that because my grandma's that and my uncle is that. And I really liked it, to be honest. I didn't really know anything about it until I started, but that's kind of how my journey began, especially with data science. I think I graduated 2019. So but back then, like it was just the beginning of what is Python, what is all that all the coding stuff with regards to statistics and economics and that data visualization application to economics and more I would say like financial things of in academia. So I took a class called econometrics using Python, and we were like the first class ever in my university to do econometrics with Python, and it was very hard because there wasn't many resources out there for like debugging or like the chat GPT didn't exist.
Yeah, that's true.
None yeah, none of that existed. So in order for us to just get the code right or debug something, or if there's a typo or if there was like something not correct, we had to Stack Overflow it or like figure it out on our own. So very traditional in that sense. But and during the 2019 Women's World Cup, that was my senior semester of a university. So I had a lot of like research background when it comes to football. I coached youth soccer, as like a side hustle. to get through college and, have food in the table. So I acquired my US Soccer C license. So in that sense, like I had the coaching mindset, but then I also had like the analytics mindset when it comes to like economics, and I had experience with Python already. So the 2019 World Cup is when I really started to like play around with stuff like data visualization, but I was just plotting, I would say, like shot plots and just plotting random stuff. Nothing really purposeful. I would say, I mean, it is purposeful, but nothing of concrete, which is what I do right now. And then yeah, then after that I started working at CONCACAF. It wasn't analytics driven, but it was with women's football, more on the strategical side, a lot of the research side. And then I ended up working for the referee department, which I ended up working assisting implementing VAR. So that's where I got the football technology side, and it really opened doors to the football technology aspect of stuff, and also huddle, sports code. And then from there, I started acquiring skills, manipulating different data sets, such as like JSON files, text files, and more of the event data slash uh, unstructured JSONs that sports code will spit out, or like a Panini or my VA or whatever video analysis tools you use. So that's kind of how I got into that. Miss pandemic as well. We had a lot of time, so did explore with referee data as well. So that's where I kind of started branching out um, from the data analytics side. And then fast forward, uh, I started working at EA. I was there for like a year and a half, one as a data reviewer for the game, and then as a data producer, specifically for the NWSL, which is the women's side of the game. And then basically just organize the data components to that. And then now, fast forward a year and a half later, I do scouting and insights for an agency, as well as I work for the Jamaican women's national team, where there I really do more of the metric side of stuff, KPIs in accordance to our game model. So I think that's kind of like, it was very much of a
I
roller
literally covered a
coaster.
lot of grounds. People
Yeah,
just
yeah, but I
from
think,
a company organization to like a soccer team.
yeah, I think, yeah, I've been tossed, I would say I've been tossed around a lot in terms of like career wise, but I think every single thing that has, that I've acquired experience has only made me better, I think. It has made me seen the game in very various different angles, and then I can provide insights and maybe acquire new metric ideas or whatever it is with accordance to my experience, right? I think with experience is I think experience is probably the most valuable thing in any field. For example, regardless of like if you're in sport, if you're in, you know, business intelligence of a company, if you don't have experience or the storytelling aspect or the communication aspect of that, like you're gonna struggle a lot, regardless of how well you code, how well your you know, your technical skills are. So I think for me, based off my experience, I can, quote unquote, put things in simple forms because I did coach kids, but then at the same time, put things in ways for non-technical people, but as well as technical people. So that's something I think that's the most important part. And then also the football side is also really important.
That's really
Um,
important, right?
yeah.
That's a
But hopefully
fascinating
that,
story. So, like, I love your journey. Like, you started, you earned a degree in economics, and then after that, you kind of like literally transition into a field of your interest. And you said that you literally acquired a license, in coaching. And so, I just want to ask, do you think, like, being like a sports analyst, that having a degree or like having a, like coaching license, or even having like a profound interest to know about the nitty gritty of the game helped you out in this particular profession? Like for example, like as a data scientist, we all need to know business acumen. But having worked in the sports industry, your business acumen is learning the game, right?
hmm.
So how do you think that, do you think that actually helps you to like, have a good progress, career growth in the sports industry because of your prior experience in licensing, coaching, and also even playing soccer, the game in general?
Yeah, for sure. I think for the most part, as I like I mentioned before, the communication piece is important, especially if you're a data scientist or data analyst, because you have to communicate to your stakeholder, and your stakeholder oftentimes is either the players, the coaches, depending if you work for a team. Um, and they don't know the terms you use, right? So you have to put it
Never
in.
the Tableau, Python, or any. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, I don't think they care. I mean, some of them do ask, but they're we try to keep it high level, right? In whatever way, shape, form we're doing it. And acquiring those insights, right? Just keep it high level.
Correct.
And in order for you to keep it high level or to present it in a way that empathizes or that puts the insights in their own shoes is I think is important. And I believe the only way, not the only way, but one of the most strong ways that you can acquire that form of empathy or that form of like being in another person's shoes is literally being in those shoes, right? So from the coach's aspect, and the playing aspect, I did not play or coach at, a high level, but the foundations and the principles are there. I understand a lot of what a game model entails to how to like prepare a coaching session. So doing that really helps assist, the head coach, assist the team. And that's kind of what we're there for. We're there to support. And the most important thing is that we do it in a way that is ebb and flowing, cohesive. And that because at the end of the day, it's a team sport. So
Correct.
whatever benefits the team is what's going to be done, right? So
That's true. Just wanted, like, since you mentioned that you've been, worked with the Jamaican, women's soccer team, helped them out in scouting and other stuff. So just kind of like it basically brings me to my next question is that how do you think, like, in your opinion, how do you think that the scouting exercise, the scouting program has been benefited by the sports analytics or some of the decision science, scientific stuff that you've been doing in that? Is it like the scouts are more equipped with knowledge because of the analysis that you have been doing at the back end and providing information about certain players, so they could literally just go out on the market and go out on the field and just cherry pick those players, and they don't have to go through a rigorous process because they already have their information like beforehand.
yeah, so it's interesting you asked that because for a national team, so the scouting variables are a little bit different, right?
Correct.
Just because it's not like the club side, but I could speak from a club angle. I think scouting and recruiting is tremendously important. And nowadays I know people that are exploring data driven, including myself, like try to mitigate the data driven scouting. We have different platforms such as like Instat, where it uses like a very strange recommender system, right, in order to select different players or suggest players rather. But in reality, scouting and talent ID is super important because at the end of the day, like you want to build a program that is within your game model, right? Or within what you want to bring out to the field or what you think would be the best suit in order for you to win more games or even win a championship. But I mean, there's different types of programs for talent ID or different types of certifications, right? I think a lot of institutions have their own philosophy on talent ID, including the US. They have a whole talent ID department where they scout like youth players, like national teams and stuff. And then they also have different programs across every association, I would say, of football. And at the end of the day, like it's so important to handpick your players, right? And not have this like open tryout
Correct.
scenario just because it's like if you're handpicking them, it's a thorough and very well thought out process before you pick that person. It's kind of like hiring, right? So you're hiring for a job or you're hiring for a position and you want to bring the best candidate in and the
Correct.
candidate that will bring you the most, I would say, success. So that's kind of like the same thing with the soccer aspect or the soccer ambient of that nature. And with Jamaica, I think I mean, Jamaica's a team that depends a lot on like their diaspora, right? Such as Venezuela, even the US, we saw in Qatar. So
Mhm.
there's a certain level of like scouting and recruitment that does go in order to acquire like more Jamaican players that fit our model. And then the US is probably like the best example since that country's ginormous, like giant,
Yeah, we
right?
have like
So
a huge pool of talents when it comes to.
yeah. So their motto of like talent ID is that they have like the central office and then they have different pretty much regions, right? And then you acquire talent ID. It's like I'm not too sure if it's like an actual license, but it's in conjunction with like the B license. You have to have the B license in order to get the talent ID portion of it, and then you're eligible to pretty much scout for the national team, like on behalf of US Soccer for like youth national team, U17, under 15, under, well, they have like every category. So U14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So yeah, I think handpicking and having eyes is the most important. And then I know that they have philosophy around that of what the identity should be for like a Jamaican player, what the identity should be for a US player. Um, yeah, so hopefully that answers your
That's great.
question.
Fascinating to know because how it's like, we are kind of like trying to bring a common ground between human intelligence and data, and kind of just combining that, and it comes as like a very powerful tool to recruit the best talents in the market, or best talent in the field. So it's very fascinating to know about that. So I was thinking, since we're talking about data analytics, being a data scientist in the finance industry, we always have to, pay more attention to the data security, regulation, and compliance. Do you guys have any sort of like a guideline, a regulation, or compliance that you need to follow in the sports area when you kind of like crunch your data, or like you when you in-house your data, so maybe in cloud or somewhere else? Just wanted to like pick your brain on that, like how the regulation compliance guideline fits in the sports industry when it comes to like acquiring data, or even like managing data in a platform.
Yeah, so I mean, first off, there's different type of data, right? There's event data, there's tracking data, wearables. I think from anything we do on the pitch, there's some kind of data collection, right? Even though someone's not physically collecting it like in a Excel sheet or whatnot. As far as wearables or anything that involves a human being, right? In Europe, there's a EU law for data privacy protection, so
GDPR and
that's
this stuff.
something. Yeah, that's something that is super important to adhere to, especially with wearables. In the US, it gets a little tricky because it depends on the state. Like if you're in California, you have a certain set of rules for that, which is more similar to Europe. I haven't been in the US for a year, so I wouldn't know exactly what state has what, but I know that um, when it comes down to data release or like data distribution, there's always I know people try to be as cautious as possible, especially in the MLS. Because I don't know about right now, but hopefully that's dictated in the CBA, which is a collective bargaining agreement. So what kind of data what data belongs to who, etc., what they're allowed to share and all that stuff. I think in Europe it definitely is more outlined, and the athlete can just say, because of the EU data protection law, can say like, hey, don't use my data, and then you have to oblige, right? In the US, it's a little bit different, but there are, when it comes to cybersecurities, it really depends on like the host or who hosts like an ASW or an Oracle, which yeah, I mean, definitely is private and has that sense of security, just like any company, um, financial company or whatnot. The layers to it, probably not as much as like the Pentagon or whatnot, but definitely something like that is secured. And then at the end of the day, like, yes, you're dealing with human beings too.
That's true.
So it's important to
Correct.
distinguish that.
That's great to know because obviously in the rising threat of cybersecurity, you all need to make sure that we perform our due diligence to protect our data and abide by all the rules and guidelines. It's interesting to know that like in the US, we do actually have a maybe different state has different law in terms of protecting the data specific to sports industry, because that's kind of like the same thing I could say in other industries as well, including finance, where I belong to. So yeah, so actually that brings me to I know like the last question of this session, and I have to ask this question given the current progress in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other stuff. I know there are a lot of things going on in the sports industry as well to implement AI. I think a few months back, I saw a post where Amazon data scientist was telling that they came up with something, kind of a tool, an AI tool that will predict the game score real time or who's going to score or something like that. So I want to just kind of like get your opinion on that, that how artificial intelligence, machine learning, or even this chat GPT or LLM or like a computer vision stuff would make an influential impact on sports industry, because I know in sports area now we have technology there. We can capture real-time pictures, we can frame videos, we can run a computer vision model on top of it, predict something and get people's sentiments or player sentiment. So is it something like you think will have an influential impact on sports industry, and people will actually start using that more, like it will be like a more of like their long-term vision to apply AI and machine learning in their sports analytics area for any professional soccer team or like a, yeah. So it's just want to get your opinion on that.
Yes, I think AI, machine learning, and all that stuff is already implemented, right? I think well, first and foremost, StatsBomb, all these analytic companies that acquire event data, and even betting companies that you already use
Correct.
a form of artificial intelligence or machine learning. In the case of event data slash more just like the performance side, they use computer vision, right, to track those who are off the ball. So they have that technology, and then also track on the ball. They have people tagging, but at the same time, you have to kind of like utilize machine learning techniques to train your algorithm to kind of balance out, or like what's it called, to provide in sync the syncing, right, of your event data, which is on the ball, and then your tracking data, so that it's at the same time, right? So I know that StatsBomb does that. FIFA also does that. Their EFI program in Qatar, that they did that.
They are also
And
implemented, right? Some of them, yeah.
yeah. So I know that I've seen it, so that's already been implemented. I know they use machine learning, probably like a XGBoost or like a Skyscanner for like betting, right? Betting odds. If you train your algorithm with matches, and then you cat code like different variables based off like goals against, goal difference, like the coach, who the opponent is, and all that stuff. You can train an algorithm to do predictions, right? So that's already how it's kind of been already in the works from like the betting side. And then I know for like in the angle of graph neural networks, there have been research papers of predicting like counterattacks,
Okay.
predicting goals and stuff. So that's already been. I'm not the most, I would say, experienced with graph neural networks nor computer vision, but I know
Yeah.
that kind of work has been already implemented. My field is more like I can do predictive analytics with no problem. It's pretty. I'm pretty familiar with that. But when it comes to graph neural networks and computer vision, it's like, oh, I mean, I could speak on it. It's not
But yeah, no, that's kind of like
something.
the advanced
Yeah.
level. I just do understand that because I do have a lot of interest in computer vision. I worked a little bit on that, so that's what I was thinking from a sports
Yeah.
aspect. How like in future, if a goalie like before going into like a penalty shootout, maybe a goalie could like analyze some of the opponent players' tiebreak, like the way they take shot, and that
Yeah.
maybe tell the goalie to jump on either of sides of that to like just save the
Yeah. So
like this kind
there
of
was
thing would be like
something,
very
yeah.
interesting, right? Yeah.
Yeah, someone did something similar to that. Like, they did a whole research paper on, and they applied it to, his name's Tyler Heaps. He worked for the US national team, and he works for Monaco now. He did pretty much, I believe there's like a heat map. He could probably speak more about it. Where it predicts like with probabilities of the player where they would shoot their penalty.
Sure. Okay.
So that's how they ended up winning the 2019 Women's World Cup, which is really cool.
Oh, that's
So I
good.
suggest,
I don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
that. I'll definitely look for this person. Tyler Ibbs, right? Okay.
yeah. I'll send you his
Yeah, please. Great. I'll
yeah,
definitely,
yeah,
try to reach out to this person. I was not aware of that. They try to implement some use
yeah,
cases of AI, to predict where the opponent players will shoot the ball, especially when it comes to penalty shootout. The 2019
yeah,
Women's
yeah.
World Cup was revolutionary, and I believe that they would continue their momentum this year as well, as we're gonna see the World Cup in a few months from now, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, like it's fascinating. Thank you for all the information. I love discussing with you. I love knowing about your journey in the field of sports analytics, how you basically pivot from economics to different areas. So now, just a last thing before we wrap it up. Do you have any tips or any suggestion for any newbies who would like to get into the sports analytics field? And not about like, and it could be two different types. Like, it could be a person who does not have a prior experience in coaching that particular game, or even like not knowing the game in general. So yeah, just if you have any free tips or suggestion for any newbies who would like to get into that game without having any prior experience about the game in general.
Yeah, so I think the best way is to be passionate, right? If there's a quote that has stuck with me since forever, has been Pele's quote, which is success is no accident. It is hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love of what you do or are doing and learning to do, right? So I think if you put your mind and body and your whole self into it, you'll be successful. So I think that's the most important part. Just be dedicated, be studious, and just love the game, but then also love to learn, right? So I think that's the most important thing, or the best piece of advice I could give anyone
So
in
that's
anything.
No, that's the great advice, because it's kind of gonna get me to that thinking me about the saying that if you love what you do, you never actually work in your life. So yeah, it's just we all have to be passionate about what we do, and I think we all have the toolkits, we have the technology, we have everything out there. It just we have to grow the passion and think from a different perspective. So I think that brings me to the end of this session. Anna, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. I love talking to you, and I guess we'll definitely continue the discussion in future. Maybe we can bring in other sports analytics, and we can have a panel discussion, and maybe you will be able to provide me more information about what's going on in the sports analytics world. So thank you so much. And for my viewers and listeners, please keep following, subscribe to my channel, and please don't forget to download it. This podcast episode will be available on YouTube, Amazon Music, and on Apple Podcast. So please keep following my channel, Data Science with Sam. I'll definitely be back with another guest speaker in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much. You all have a great weekend ahead. Thank you. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.